Believe it or not, up until this point, I had never played The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. But I'm about to review it right now. But I still haven't played any of the Final Fantasy games. I swear you can't please anyone. So, now that I've played through this grand adventure, what are my thoughts on a title that is considered by many to be the greatest Legend of Zelda game of all time? Well, considering I took the time to write this script, I may as well keep reading. So, this game begins in Hyrule with our current incarnation of Link being awoken in the middle of the night by loud ruckus. Link's uncle tells him to stay put as he goes to investigate. Now, Link being the main character of this story obviously does the exact opposite of what he's told, and discovers a dastardly plot. The royal Princess Zelda is being held captive by the evil wizard this guy. Once Link frees her, he sets off to find the legendary Master Sword to help defeat this evil wizard and save the land. Of course, this will prove quite difficult as the Royal Guard is now convinced that Link kidnapped her. But wait, there's more. As it turns out, Wizard Alakazam here is waging a war on two fronts. In a parallel version of Hyrule known as the Dark World, a great evil is attempting to break through to the Light World in order to take over the land. But who could this monster be? Well, let's spin the wheel of villains and find out. Ganon! That's not weird at all. So, can our hero brave the horrors of the Dark World, clear his name, rescue Princess Zelda, and learn how to use the hookshot? Well, if he can't, then the official Zelda timeline is totally bogus. The gameplay of this title is very reminiscent of the original Zelda title, as it has a top-down view, plus enemies and events reset each time a new screen is loaded. Hyrule is actually quite large, and there is a fair amount of side quests and challenges to complete, ranging from obtaining a conspicuously familiar flute, to digging for treasure, and even catching bugs. Wait, what is this, Animal Crossing? But that's not all. Once Link gains access to the Dark World, even more side quests open up, and oftentimes Link must alter the world in one version of Hyrule to make progress in the other. What's even more interesting is seeing elements of this game which would eventually become staples in the Legend of Zelda series as a whole. This game has a total of 13 dungeons, which is the highest out of the entire series. Add this to the exploration, minigames, and side quests, and you're looking at around 20 hours worth of gameplay. Of course, that's not even taking replay value into account. So now let's get to the reviewing. The graphics are very, very good for a SNES title. In fact, with the amount of detail in the dungeons, enemies, NPCs, Hyrule, and the Dark World, I had a very hard time believing this game was released in 1991. Well, 92 for North America. But even aside from the detail, the designs of the characters and bosses is very well done, and there are many instances in which the game creates 3D looking elements in a 2D top-down adventure. Moving on to the gameplay, well, once again, for a title of its age, it works almost extremely smoothly. The navigation is fine, and the game does a great job of teaching you how to use each item without beating you over the head with tutorials. You hear that, developers? It's called intuitive gameplay. You should look it up sometime. However, there are many times in which the hitboxes on both the enemies and Link seem just a bit off. Once you figure out how to use this to your advantage, it isn't a big deal, but this can be extremely frustrating, especially during boss battles. But what I was most impressed by in this game was the dungeons. For having the most dungeons in the franchise, this game does its damnedest to not let them get stale. Each dungeon not only introduces new gameplay elements, but they also work off the elements introduced from previous dungeons. This occurs so frequently that by the time you reach the final tower, you will need to use every item in your arsenal to achieve victory. So let's talk about the soundtrack. Well, it's composed by Koji Kondo, and it's The Legend of Zelda. that means it's really good and you should check it out. But we can't forget about the story now, can we? Well, honestly, it can be hard to look at a Zelda title and not boil it down to Ganon captures Zelda, Link frees Zelda, everyone is happy. But with the introduction of new villains, allies, gameplay elements, and backstory, this title does a fine job of making this formula feel fresh. Plus, there are some legitimate deep moments of character development and a few heart-wrenching and humorous side quests. It's just a shame that this character development is, as usual, lost on Link. So, what are my final thoughts on this exploration into this 16-bit Zelda title? Well, while I wouldn't say it's my personal favorite, I will say that this is a fantastic game and I would highly recommend it to any Zelda fan, both casual and hardcore. So if you're interested, this game can be found on the Nintendo eShop for $7.99. Now if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna look into why Link is so fond of harassing chickens.